CRE Fast 5 in tonight's look at the global supply chain crisis. I'm Carly Iacono. We've all seen the headlines, and most of us have probably felt the shipping delays or out-of-stock notices firsthand. Aside from our personal frustrations, the supply chain issues may have a substantial impact on the retail and industrial tenants and our investment properties. But what's really causing the problem, and how long do we think this will continue? COVID accentuated an already strained distribution system, but unfortunately, the supply chain has become a Rubik's Cube of shortages and delays. The first issue is a manufacturing bottleneck. The New York Times had a great answer to the question, why can't factories just produce more? Factories generally need to bring in components to make the things they export. For example, a computer assembled in China may require a chip made in Taiwan or Malaysia. A flat panel display from South Korea requires specialized chemicals from other parts of China or Europe. If one component is delayed, the whole system can be at a standstill. If a factory shuts down for any number of reasons, it can set off a cascade of delays and shortages of finished goods on the other side of the world. The second issue is the gridlock at the ports. As of last Friday morning, approximately 70 ships filled with cargo were anchored outside the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which are the points of entry for more than 40% of all U.S. imports. President Biden announced last month that you probably saw that the port would begin operating 24/7 in an effort to ease the traffic jam. However, this may only be relevant if the warehouses, trains, and trucks do the same. If there is nowhere to move the containers to, having someone show up at the dock at 3 a.m. may not help that much. The third issue is a scarcity of critical equipment like shipping containers and truck chassis. When the pandemic started, countries like China shipped protective gear all over the world, and containers were unloaded in places that did not send much product back, like West Africa and South Asia. In these places where the trade is imbalanced, the empty containers are piling up. In addition, with rail yards and ports running out of space for all of the backed up containers, it's making it virtually impossible to move the containers out when the chassis do become available. The Washington Post noted that the normal 3.5-day cycle for a chassis to exit with a container and then return for another pickup has stretched to 17 days. When goods can't be delivered, the empty containers and chassis cannot be returned on time to be refilled. The fourth issue is the labor shortage and high employee turnover. Drivers come and go at trucking companies at an alarmingly high rate. For the full year 2020, the annualized turnover rate at large truckload carriers averaged 90%, which was only 1 point away from the turnover rate in 2019, according to the Commercial Carrier Journal. So this is not a new phenomenon. However, 90% turnover is a very serious concern as the pool of interested workers continues to shrink. Many night shift positions are currently being left unfilled. The fifth issue is the surge in demand. According to a recent Slate.com article, by August, inflation-adjusted spending on goods was up 14.5% compared with pre-pandemic levels, while services were still down more than 2%. To put it simply, Americans are buying more than they ever have, and there are only so many cranes to unload the cargo and so many trucks that can enter and exit a port at any given time. So this is making the time to get a specific item to its destination greatly extended. So in summary, the loss of both manufacturing capacity and logistics capacity, coupled with increased demand, is creating a headache-inducing supply chain gridlock. So what does that mean for the consumer? Price inflation, empty shelves, and endless shipping delays. Many retailers are saying shop now for the holidays to ensure the items come in time. So when does all this get better? Some experts are predicting we won't see any easing until at least 4 to 6 months from now, and it could be the smaller retailers that are hit the hardest. The New York Times noted that before the pandemic, sending a container from one port to another, from let's say Shanghai to LA, cost about $2,000. By early 2021, the same route was fetching as much as $25,000, over a tenfold increase in less than 2 years. While retail giants like Walmart, Home Depot, and Costco are chartering their own container ships to have a little more control over the process, smaller retailers are hoping their goods, whether it be raw materials or the finished product, reach their destination at any cost. Shipping contracts are simply being ignored, and carriers are naming their price, which ultimately will impact the retailer's bottom line. The only bright side here, aside from noting that the American consumer is spending at historic levels, is that periods of intense disruption often lead to the most interesting innovations. The startups looking to radically change the flow of the supply chain are many, and perhaps we emerge with a more efficient answer to the age-old question of how to create what people demand and get it to them as fast as possible. That was CRE Fast 5. I'm Carly Iacono. I'll see you soon.